What if Marvel is quietly doing the same thing again, hiding a massive crossover in plain sight while telling us there is no connection at all? Right now, the official narrative is simple. Spider-Man Brand New Day is being positioned as a grounded reset, a street-level story, a fresh chapter for Peter Parker after No Way Home. On the other hand, Avengers Doomsday is being framed as a massive, universe-shaking event film, cosmic, political, multiversal, and driven by Doctor Doom. Two very different tones, two very different scales, and publicly we're being told they're not directly connected. But that's exactly why this feels familiar. Because Marvel has done this before. More than once. They downplayed connections. They redirected attention. They let fans assume a movie stood on its own, only to reveal later that it was quietly laying the first brick for something much bigger. And when you look closely at Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday, not as separate projects, but as strategic placements on Marvel's timeline, the idea that they're completely disconnected starts to feel unlikely. Especially when you remember how No Way Home ended. Peter Parker didn't just lose his friends, he lost his identity, his safety net, and his place in the superhero community. He became invisible to the world, and more importantly, invisible to power structures. Governments don't know him, Avengers don't know him, the public doesn't know him. And that kind of anonymity is not just emotional, it's political. And politics is exactly where Doctor Doom thrives. Brand New Day isn't just about a new suit or a new apartment, it's about Peter re-entering a world that has moved on without him. A world where global leadership is unstable, superhuman accountability is fractured, and the Avengers are no longer a unified presence. That backdrop is essential, because Avengers Doomsday isn't just about destruction, it's about control, power, sovereignty. Who gets to decide the future of a broken world? Doctor Doom doesn't arrive during peace, he arrives during uncertainty. And that's where the first real connection begins to form. Brand New Day, by design, is small scale. But Marvel often uses small-scale stories to introduce big ideas quietly. Think back to how Civil War seeds were planted long before the movie existed. Think about how Ant-Man introduced quantum concepts that later reshaped the entire MCU. Spider-Man films, especially, have always been Trojan horses. Friendly neighborhood stories on the surface, structural shifts underneath. If Brand New Day is truly about Peter navigating a world that no longer recognizes him, then it's also about him observing that world from the outside. He's not an Avenger anymore. He's not in briefings. He's not part of global conversations. He's listening to police scanners, watching news reports, catching fragments of conversations that hint at something larger building in the background. And those fragments are where Doom fits. Doom doesn't need a grand entrance in Brand New Day. He doesn't need a name drop. In fact, the smartest move would be to avoid it entirely. All it takes is a single moment. A news broadcast about a mysterious Eastern European nation asserting independence, a mention of advanced technology disrupting global markets, a shadowy figure advising world leaders from behind the scenes. That's all Doom ever needs. And Marvel has already trained audiences to look for that kind of subtle setup. Because when No Way Home released, nobody expected the post-credit scene to straight up deliver the Multiverse of Madness trailer. And yet, it did. Not a tease, not a hint, a full declaration of what was coming next. So the idea that Brand New Day could end with either a glimpse of Doctor Doom or even a direct Avengers Doomsday trailer isn't wild speculation, it's precedent. More importantly, it would make narrative sense. Brand New Day ends with Peter choosing to stay grounded, to protect his city, to rebuild quietly. And then, in the post-credit moment, Marvel pulls the camera away from the street level and shows us the storm forming above the entire planet. The message would be clear without a single line of dialogue. While Peter is trying to survive day by day, the world is moving towards something catastrophic. And this is where the trailers themselves become interesting. Both Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday have already shown early footage to audiences. And even without explicit crossover moments, there are tonal overlaps that feel intentional. A recurring emphasis on surveillance, on borders, on nations tightening control over superhuman activity, on technology replacing heroes. In Brand New Day footage, Peter is shown operating alone. No backup, no team, no Avengers Tower in sight. In Doomsday material, the Avengers aren't framed as saviors, but as a fragmented response force reacting to Doom's rise. Those two perspectives are two sides of the same coin, Peter at the bottom of the system, Doom at the top of it. And that's where the thematic connection becomes stronger than any cameo. Brand New Day isn't about stopping Doom. It's about showing the kind of world Doom can take advantage of. A world where heroes are isolated, where trust is broken, where global leadership is desperate for order, even if it comes from a tyrant. Dr. Doom doesn't conquer with brute force first. He conquers by offering solutions. And Brand New Day's world is full of problems begging for one. There's also the emotional angle that ties everything together. Peter Parker represents responsibility without recognition. He sacrifices everything and gets nothing in return. Doom represents power without humility. He believes intelligence and strength entitle him to rule. Putting those two characters on a collision course doesn't require them to meet immediately. It requires contrast. By the time Avengers Doomsday begins, the audience should already understand what's at stake, emotionally. Not just cities or timelines, but the soul of a world that's forgotten what true heroism looks like. And Brand New Day can quietly teach us that lesson without ever mentioning Doom's name. That's why the post-credit scene matters so much. Whether it's a shadowy silhouette, a Latverian emblem, a council room where a masked figure watches global chaos unfold, or even a direct Avengers Doomsday trailer drop, the function is the same: to reframe Brand New Day not as an ending, but as a prologue. Just like No Way Home wasn't just a Spider-Man movie, it was the emotional doorway into Marvel's multiverse era. Brand New Day could be the emotional doorway into Marvel's Doom era. And maybe that's the biggest clue of all. Marvel isn't connecting these films through plot, they're connecting them through perspective. One shows you what it feels like to be powerless in a changing world. The other shows you what happens when someone powerful decides to take control of that world. So the real question isn't whether Spider-Man, Brand New Day, and Avengers Doomsday are connected. The question is, when the world starts falling apart under Doom's rule, where does a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fit into that fight?